wouldn't be a pod without talking about it this week. And it's interesting because we've talked about different journalists. Lewis Steele, we've mentioned from the Daily Mail. We've mentioned Sam Wallace. David Ornstein wrote about it in the last week or so, and he almost did that. I called it a briefing to you last week in terms of Salah, Van Dijk expected to say, Trent less positive in this regard. I mean, this does seem to be the consistent noise. And now David Ornstein saying it, you can understand why fans are going to be, hold on, this is the briefing. If this doesn't happen, what is going on?
Yeah, Liverpool aren't saying that. So I would kind of push back on the idea it's a briefing because nobody at Liverpool, as far as I'm aware, is saying that there's, saying that around Trent. I think, again, and this is not to kind of shoot down David Ornstein. I would be absolutely stupid to do that because he's phenomenal and his contacts are great. But obviously, he's written it in a very similar way, I thought, to Sam Wallace. And we spoke about it in terms of kind of, it's just, this is kind of the vibe. And I get, you can see that on social media, the way people talking about it, it's the vibe that Trent might be going. But for me, at the moment, it's still people kind of filling in gaps because Salah spoke about it. Van Dijk has spoken about it. They've said how much they want to stay. Liverpool clearly want them to stay. So we can, can get there in terms of thinking that those two will eventually be signed up and that will be sorted. But when it comes to Trent, I just think a lot of the talk about it is kind of, we're filling in the gaps because he hasn't said anything about it, and therefore his silence is being taken as something. And maybe that will be right, by the way. Maybe we're not reading too much into it by saying that Trent is, we get that feeling that he's going to go because he's not talking about it. This could actually be the case, but it could also be the case that he's just fulfilling what he said he would do, which is to not play it out in public, and he actually does want to sign, and it's going to happen. But it's still ongoing at the moment, and we just I don't want to kind of get into kind of filling in the gaps with it, is what I'm saying. And I think that there's a little bit of that going on, and it could be, oh well, the vibe is at the moment that Trent's going to go, but then he stays anyway, and we why did we buy into that is kind of what I'm saying. So I'm not so sure there's anything concrete in this one, and as far as I'm aware at the moment, talks with all three are ongoing. And there's a hope that all three will stay. So that is still kind of the position. And I defer to that as something a little bit more concrete than because Trent isn't speaking, we have to read something into it.
Yeah, I suppose whilst there's silence, everyone will look to fill it, won't they? And everyone will be looking for, is there an angle? Is there anything to develop? I think because we're all just desperate for news and for all three to stay, we're hoping to hear something. But it does just seem, does there not a bit of you that seems, we're in March. There's not long till the end of the season. I know it's all about trophies and that quite rightly, but it does seem quite mad that three of the best players in the world are at this club and potentially leaving on a free, and there's no real noise of anything concrete developing.
Yeah, but it's just noise, isn't it? Like, there's like reports that come out from time to time where someone claims it's close or whatever, and everybody gets excited and everyone's like, oh, it feels like it's going in the right direction, but it's all just noise. So, I still defer to what Virgil says to us regularly, which is that he is not that fussed about it at the moment. He's not, worried in any way. And he clearly thinks it's going to get done. And I get a similar vibe from Salah now with the way he's kind of just gone quiet about it. I think they both think it's going to get done. So, and like I say, we can't really read into Trent because we're not hearing anything, but they are very relaxed about it. So if that's the case, then they think this is being done in a normal, respectful way, that they're happy with the progress that's being made. So we've just got to kind of accept that that's how it is. I mean, ideally it would be wrapped up by now, and that worry will be taken away from fans. But, if the players aren't worried, then we probably shouldn't be either.
Yeah, we've got no choice but to wait and see what happens with this one. And another contract came onto the docket. This was a story that quite a few had yesterday in regards to Arne Slot, that Arne Slot does have 2 years left to go in the summer, and it's quite a good salary. Well, say good salary, huge salaries on in terms of world terms, but below a lot of elite managers, but the bonuses could take him up. Do you think this will be a priority for Richard Hughes as well? 2 years left to go in the summer, proved himself without doubt. We need to get Arne Slot extended.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think, it'd just be kind of, Liverpool have, generally speaking, been quite good at that. I mean, obviously with prime age players, as soon as they sort of perform well, they try and get you see it with kind of academy kids as well. The likes of Connor Bradley and Harvey Elliott is signing incremental deals every other year, seemingly. When they start to break through, it's just to recognise the development and reward them. So I see no different why they would take a different approach with the manager, and they don't want to leave themselves in a contractual situation whereby if anybody else is looking for a manager, they might look to him. He's doing an absolutely fantastic job. So I'm pretty sure they'll see that as a bit of a priority this summer in terms of getting it sorted and getting him extended and rewarding what he's done, which at the moment looks like it's going to be a Premier League title at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we don't get it done, as you said, there could well be envious glances from other clubs. So fingers crossed something gets sorted on that as well. And these questions, quite a few of them I've got for you, have come in from sort of Discord, from pro members as well. So questions around sort of contracts we talked about, but possible squad leavers or possible departures. This name is one that keeps coming up. We have talked about Harvey Elliott a lot, and I know you're a fan of the player. I know you'd said before that it's not been the greatest of seasons for different reasons for him, and he may wait to see what happens or how it bodes next summer. I mean, he was an unused sub again the other night, wasn't he, against Newcastle? Are you still leaning towards that you think he will, just because of the fact he is such a staunch Liverpool fan?
Do you know what? I'll be honest. I feel like my kind of position on this is changing a little bit the further into the season we go, because I did expect that he would get more chances. I mean, I spoke to someone around January about this, and he kind of said, look, he's got a role to play in the second half of the season. He's frustrated because he's been injured, but we'll see what happens. And the hope is that he'll play more. And what's happened really is he's kind of playing less and less. It's It's remarkable, really, the extent to which he's not been used, and it feels kind of pointed that Slot won't turn to him from the bench in moments where he might need him, and just hasn't been giving him the minutes at all. And I think as much as he is a Liverpool fan, and that will kind of it'll play a role in his thinking around what happens this summer. It's no good being a Liverpool fan sat on the bench and just watching the games. He might as well be in the stands with the season ticket at the moment, with the complete lack of minutes he's getting. So I think it's prime, and it's putting him in a position where he's got a big decision to make this summer. Because I don't think the manager would be too heartbroken if he were to leave, judging by the lack of use. And I think that's a real shame, because I think there's I think you saw in pre-season he could work in this system and that he would be good under this manager, but it just hasn't kind of worked for him yet, unfortunately. And the manager just doesn't seem to fancy him, so that is a real shame. And I think if Liverpool got a decent bid in this summer, they would be minded to accept it, and then it would be up to the player. And hard to kind of predict how he would approach that. And a real shame that it's kind of come to this, but I think there's something brewing there in terms of potential exit for him.
Yeah, it's like you say, just I think 30 odd minutes across the last 8 Premier League games, and only 76 minutes in the Premier League all season. I know punctuated with an injury. The other one that a few Discord viewers have actually asked this morning as well, Endo seems to be a little bit more trusted, doesn't he, in that regard? And he's actually overtaken now Harvey Elliott in terms of minutes. We said before, maybe Arne Slot does just regret out of any games not bringing him on to see how Everton or play his part that way. There does seem to be increased trust for Endo. Do you think there could be an increased chance of a future at Anfield, or is this more just still a parting of ways, you think, in the summer?
Again, I think, I don't think Liverpool will be against kind of keeping him around. Obviously, he would have a couple of years left on his contract. He won't be on insane wages by any means, and he's a great guy to have around and a very useful squad player. But, there's real potential, isn't there, to add a midfielder that the manager fully trusts. And if they do that in the summer, again, you're looking at him and thinking, where are your minutes going to come from? Where are you going to, how are you going to get in the team at all? So it's really, really hard to see how he would move past this and be a bigger part of this squad. So it's all about kind of asking the player, what do you want to do there? And I just wonder, after 2 years at Liverpool, hopefully a couple of winners' medals as well there, more to add to the League Cup winners he's got already, then, he might just think, okay, maybe now is my time to move on and go and play elsewhere. So again, I think that one, very similar to Harvey Elliott, is that it's going to be kind of more of a decision for the player to make than anything. But if you see in that few minutes and you are just seen as a closer, do you really want to stick around?
Yeah, it is a big decision for him to make. As Red Armchair Supporter says there, he is, yes, ideal for seeing games, but longer term, there's a question mark there. John are also saying we need better than Endo. You can't have Grav playing this many games. We need a quality midfielder signed. Yeah, there is big question marks around those two. And the other one that's come up from quite a few, a position that we've probably, as we've talked about, never had a better collection of keepers at the club that we can recollect. It's absolutely brilliant, even in terms of the third choice from Alisson to Queeve to Yaros now. The thing is, Marmadashvili, as we know, is set to come in this summer, and you'll have seen all the reports this morning that he is expected to come in and he's not here to sit on the bench to go straight in. I suppose Queeve is fully expected. I know you've said that before to move on. Is there any suspicions or anything you're thinking around Alisson as well? Because you can't see Alisson being displaced if he stays, but with Marmadashvili coming, have you got any question marks around that at all and Alisson's future?
Yeah, I think it's a live issue at the moment. Yeah, I think there's a real possibility Alisson does move on. I mean, there was talk around it kind of coming into last summer, and then the players' camp kind of shot that down pretty early eventually, and kind of said that no, he's going to stay for this season at least. But there was potential then to kind of let's see what happens next summer, and again the Saudi interest there in him, some top European clubs I'm sure would be interested, but I think for him that's the one that if he were to leave Liverpool, he maybe would go to Saudi and kind of make that money. So that's going to be an interesting one if that's back on the table. And again, I don't think Liverpool are going to be kicking him out the door. I think their ideal situation is maybe to go into next season with Alisson and Marmadashvili 1 and 2, and then sort of have that competition ongoing. And then the season after that, maybe Marmadashvili becomes first choice. I think that would be kind of the dream scenario. But it's all kind of on what does Alisson want, and if he kind of pushes for that move away, then they've kind of got it boxed, then haven't they? Because they've got a situation whereby Marmadashvili, okay, you can come in, you can be our first choice goalkeeper. Maybe Yaros sticks around for another season as the number 2 there, and you're pretty well set. So I think all those kind of outcomes are live at the moment. It'd be very, very difficult to predict exactly what's going to happen, but I think you couldn't rule out that Alisson would leave this summer. I think that's it's definitely a possibility. But there's a few things that have got to go into that.
Yeah, it does like probably a good way to phrase it as you did, a live issue. But either way, you would expect Liverpool to still be very well stocked in terms of goalkeepers moving into the new season. So that is another one to watch for this summer.